we all know that translation from a research finding to clinical practice or whatever often takes 20 years or more. And so, to put that 5-year timeline really creates a false sense of hope for people that I think is really, really the irresponsible part.
Spinal injury BC is such a messed up thing. One person, even in the same numbers, by looking at the paperwork, could be the same numbers, but those two people have completely different way they live.
We often think about the need to change the environment, the built environment, the natural environment, to make it more accessible. And certainly that is very important work. But how you interact with an environment is also an opportunity to enhance accessibility. There's such diversity in how their injury presents, what their challenges are, how it impacts their lives, that we have to really be careful about not creating a situation that's worse for somebody just to make it better for somebody else.
If you live long enough, at some point you will be disabled.
Exactly.
Whether temporary or permanent.
Yeah. People with disabilities, people with spinal injury, they want to work. It's an important part of their identity.
I feel the government always not motivating. It's demotivating.
Government programs are great, but if you're on government support, income support, and you earn a little bit too much, then you're gonna get cut. You're gonna lose all sorts of benefits.
Chris, welcome to our podcast, Living Unbroken, and it's we are so excited to see you and talk about yourself. I know you because I've been with Spinal Injury BC. Well, they have changed my life a lot. But I guess my audience would like to know, who are you and what's your mission about in it?
Yeah, thanks, Amit. Thanks for having me. Thanks for both of you having me. So, Chris McBride, I'm the executive director at Spinal Injury BC, being there for 15 years now. The mission of the organization is to help people with spinal injuries and their families, and folks with related physical disabilities to adjust, adapt, and thrive. Whether they're dealing with a new injury or the ongoing challenges of living and aging with a physical disability. So we're a provincial organization. We're here to help no matter where you are on your journey.
And what inspired you to go on a journey of spinal cord research and then serving the community?
Yeah, so I kind of stumbled my way into it, to be perfectly honest. So back in the early 1990s, I was offered the opportunity to do my PhD in a lab out of UBC that was studying spinal cord injury regeneration, which was a fairly new field at the time. It was kind of moving quickly, I would say. It was an exciting opportunity for me. And so I accepted that invitation to join Dr. Steve's lab. And it was funny, shortly after I joined the lab, Dr. Steves was on CBC's national news program talking about how there would be a cure in 5 years. And I thought, wow, I really timed this right. If I'm going to be here for this really massive shift in how we treat spinal cord injuries. And of course, that didn't really pan out the way that the rhetoric kind of led people to believe it would. So I keep hearing that time frame now, even, which is really irresponsible. But it was an exciting time to be in spinal cord injury research, just given the advances that were happening. And I loved learning about the research, didn't like doing the research itself. And so was very, very fortunate to have finished my PhD around the time that the ICORD Research Center here in Vancouver was getting formed by my supervisor at the time. I was invited onto the administrative team at ICORD, and so became the managing director at ICORD during the time when we built the Blossom Spinal Cord Center. And an important part of my role as managing director at ICORD was to work with community partner organizations, and Spinal Cord Injury BC was one of those organizations. And so I got to know the organization really well. Went on to become the managing director of the new Rick Hansen Institute, which is now called the Practice of Spinal Cord Institute. So got more involved on a national network level as well. And again, working closely with community partners here in BC and across the country. And, there were some changes that were happening in the organization at the time, and happened to run into the executive director from Spinal Cord Injury BC at the time in a grocery store lineup. And she said, Chris, I think, I'm going to retire, and I think I'd like you to take my job. So that sounded great. So just kind of stumbled into the role 15 years ago, and been the most rewarding role I've ever had.
Cool. So the helpful things out of that.
Mm-hmm.
You said that there was a timeline given for care at the time of 5 years, and you've heard of that being thrown out many times since and even now, and you called it irresponsible. Tell me why you said that.
Yeah, so I've been in this game now and I stay very connected to the research, by the way, and I still do a lot of partnership with research because I believe very strongly in the importance of research and the changes that it can make. But every few years, there's a new exciting discovery that comes along. It was growth factors at the time when I was there. It was stem cells. Now it's neurostimulation and modulation. And researchers get excited about it. The public gets excited about it. Universities want to promote these findings as important to society, and there's this enthusiasm that drives people to put a timeline on when they think their discoveries are going to have impact for the people that they're ultimately targeted to have that impact with. And for some reason, 5 years was always the pathway. And I think there was maybe some touch points with the regulatory process at the time, but we all know that translation from a research finding to clinical practice or whatever often takes 20 years or more. And so to put that 5-year timeline really creates a false sense of hope for people that I think is really, really the irresponsible part.
Yeah, they do say that most people overestimate what they can do in a year,
Yes.
but underestimate what they can do in 10.
Yes.
You had to throw time knowing, especially having been the research and at the cutting edge of all the new research that's going on now and being in the youth association, would you put a timeline?
No, I would never put a timeline on it. I just think that's irresponsible, and partly because all of the things that were exciting and were thought to have a really good chance of having a meaningful clinical impact, they've not come to fruition in that 30 years. So I haven't seen the translation of this basic science discovery find its way into the clinic. I mean, there are a few exceptions, but they're small steps, and they're not the big steps that were thought to have been the potential at the time. And so it's not to say that the field of science hasn't led to some really meaningful impacts for people with comfort injuries over that time. They have been more around things like rehabilitation. They have been around technology. That these biological medical interventions have not really proven themselves in that 30 years that I've witnessed anyways.
You mentioned Rick Hansen, the biggest goal in the Rick Hansen Society itself to bring accessibility move forward into the country. And I'm so glad I can see in the last 15 years I've been injured on it, and I can see how it's evolving to different levels to it. How being a leader for Spinal Cord Injury BC and Spinal Cord Injury Canada, what are the challenges you find of being in inclusion, and what are the things you're going to get involved so that as a nation we can see the new accessibility in the country?
That's a very big question, Amit. I think it's the right question. The barriers. So I think, and I know you've talked to leaders in this field as well, and I hope I'm saying similar things to them because I'm very much aligned with their thinking. I think, but I think there's two things from my perspective, anyways, that I've heard a lot about. Ignorance is one, so just not knowing what the issues are is a really big problem, and then attitudinal barriers is the other. So not thinking that people can have meaningful lives, can do things that we all think are important and enjoy. So that's where it starts. That's the big challenge to overcome, because if you're going to affect change, you need people to be behind the change, to understand why that change is important, and to understand the potential that people have to have meaningful opportunities in their lives. And accessibility is one that most people don't think about until they're in a situation where either impacts them directly or somebody that they know directly. And the more that people understand what these barriers are and why it's important to overcome them, I think that the more likely are we going to have to success. For SCI BC, what we found is that, well, money's always an important driver. So, I mean, I think we all just need to acknowledge that, right? But we have had tremendous success working with communities throughout the province here in BC in understanding, if you make, so accessible tourism is the opportunity that we've found is can change a conversation, can change some thinking, because when people realize that worldwide, and these are old numbers now, but the accessible tourism industry is an $80 billion a year industry. Well, that people start to think, well, okay, I can't participate in that if my community is not accessible. And tourism is a big thing here in BC. So if you're going to expand your tourism opportunities and the revenue that comes along with that, well, then your community has to be accessible. The reason for people going to that community have to be accessible. The experiences themselves have to be accessible. So we have, with Spinal Cord Injury BC, we have a memorandum of understanding with all of the regional tourism associations in the province to help advance training, awareness, and an actual assessment of accessibility assessments in communities to help build accessibility. And the great thing about that is if your community is accessible, you can take advantage of accessible tourism, but it's also going to make your community way more accessible and more livable for people. So it's been a really good equation for us, and we've got a lot of support. Now there's a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of investment that needs to be made, but we're seeing the switch from why should I care about this to understanding why it's important and what the benefits are, direct and indirect, as a result.
I love that. And we've had a few guests on the show who've all talked about this. Accessibility in places is actually more inclusive for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by how many people use those buttons to open the doors. Texting was a technology invented for people with disabilities. And I also love the fact that you brought up the coexistence of doing something that is making your place accessible, but it also allows you to benefit. So it's a win-win in so many ways. Amit and I are both entrepreneurs, so we're always sometimes where people see a lack or a challenge, we tend to see opportunity. Think of like the climate change. A lot of people see doom and gloom, but a lot of entrepreneurs see opportunities to either into carbon capture or regeneration or clean tech. You brought up the tourism example. What other business opportunities exist in this space for young entrepreneurs or any entrepreneurs?
Well, that's a super interesting question. And it's funny, actually, because I just came from one of my annual planning sessions with my management team, and we talk a lot about challenges that we see arising over the next year. And I always am quick to remind them that from challenge comes opportunity. So very, very similar message. For accessibility, we often think about the need to change the environment, the built environment, the natural environment, to make it more accessible. And certainly that is very important work. But how you interact with an environment is also an opportunity to enhance accessibility. And we're seeing that in technology all the time, like new wheelchair design, for example, exoskeletons, these things. They're very far off from becoming useful in day-to-day life, but they're very important steps towards, I think, a different way to interface with the environment that enhances accessibility. So I think there's tremendous opportunity on the technology side to advance accessibility for everybody.
No, definitely I always say that technology is way ahead speed, and it has helped me, and it has helped a lot of our people who are disabled, who technology does an amazing things for us. Like, I wish our medical systems can run with the same speed on it. We, as you said in earlier, the 5 years, it's gonna be way ahead because technology in last 10 years has been just changing every day, is moving forward, and does help us a lot to access anything onto it. I know in the community we always talk about being an advocacy for it, and what are the biggest difference between the BC Paraplegic Association and BC organization, and how SCI BC can help the community leaders or community support workers to advocate for them so that we can move forward much more better and be supportive to the organization itself?
to go back to the technology piece, and I think this is something for everybody needs to keep in mind, that when you create a technology for inclusion, that you're not creating exclusion through it. Because it's really easy to create a technology that works really well for one group, but completely excludes another. So we always have to be careful about what we're advocating for, and being intentional about that, and just being considerate of the diversity of people's experiences that exist out there. And we know with spinal cord injury, you've seen one person with a spinal cord injury, you've seen one person with a spinal cord injury. There's such diversity in how their injury presents, what their challenges are, how it impacts their lives, that we have to really be careful about not creating a situation that's worse for somebody just to make it better for somebody else. So, but that's not to say that we shouldn't focus on a solution that works really well for somebody, if it does. And when I started in my role 15 years ago, I was very quick to say that spinal cord injury, for example, is too big for any one organization to really support people and fully in all the ways that they need to be supported. And we need partnerships to do that. Like we can't do it alone. And so partnership and collaboration is something that I've grown up with in my academic career, in my administrative career. Certainly something that I've always promoted with Spinal Cord Injury BC, because there's so many great organizations doing so many things, and we're all doing very complementary things, so we can work together. And when it comes to advocacy, that's so important, that we're working together to bring that voice together, to amplify the sound, so that we can get more attention and I think understand the complexities of what we're advocating for much better, and create a better case for change or for support or whatever that case may be. So it's just super important to be working with others, no matter what we're doing. Yeah.
Definitely collaboration is the way to go with it. Without collaborating with anybody, we will not move the wheel forward. Even in the one wheel that's board, you have to push it or pull it. So those two actions have to be done. I always see the challenges we face in day-to-day operations of how we do it, and definitely Spinal Cord Injury BC has done a tremendous job in tourism and how it has helped our community to grow. And by myself, I meet in different peers, and as you know, I made more friends than peers, but I've never had that amazing social life, even if a change of career or change of perspective to change by stepping into the shoes of it, right? But yes, definitely there's always been the challenges for me, just like considering a living cost for it. Being a spinal cord injury, the World Health Organization has said this is the number 2 in the world, the worst illnesses you can have it. Because spinal cord injury is such a messed up thing. One person, even in the same numbers, by looking at the paperwork, could be the same numbers, but those two people have completely different way they live, have the same injury, how they are into it. And I know you have done advocacy regarding the catheters and everything on it. How has that gone so far for you?
Yeah, I just always like to be clear that Spinal Cord Injury BC itself isn't an advocacy organization. It's not to say we don't support advocacy and we don't get involved in advocacy. We absolutely do. But our approach is different than some organizations who are more solely focused on advocacy. We bring the voice of our membership forward on critical issues. That's really important to us. So we're not creating those issues on our own in isolation of what our members are bringing forward to us. So, and catheter coverage is obviously a very important one that impacts a lot of our members. That is a good case of where we're working with other research organizations, other nonprofit groups. Certainly our provincial partners across the country are very interested in this. So that's just one example of many, like wheelchair coverage and mobility aid coverage, home supports, and what's allowed within the scope of home support, for example. I mean, they're just so many different issues out with that. But I'm excited about, I would say, the next couple of years even. I don't know what kind of change will come in the next year, but I know that in British Columbia here, there's a strong appetite to look at the rehabilitation system broadly. So not just within the healthcare centers themselves, but in community as well. And how we can restructure that and how we can start to build policy around creating better supports that are more equitable for people with stalk injury and other disabilities. So you're not paying a P tax just for the catheters you need, for example. We want to create equitable opportunities for people. I think that's just really important. And I think there's a better understanding of the extra hidden costs of living with physical disability that really, I think, challenges that equity that we're all seeking. So right now we're working with, certainly with the Rick Hansen Combination, with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, with brain injury groups, with people within GS Strong Rehab Center and other health authorities to create a new rehab strategy for BC. And it's frustrating. It's very slow. There's so many bureaucratic barriers and whatnot. But we're slowly getting, not necessarily through the barriers yet, but we're getting to the point where we're discussing strategy to get through the barriers. Simple things like our health authority structure. In BC, we have all these health authorities. Well, they're huge barriers for somebody to access specialized service. If you're not living in Vancouver Coastal Health Region, you may not be able to get to the sexual health rehab service because technically they're not actually supporting anybody in the province, which is crazy because they're the only ones doing it. So if we can remove some of these just really easy barriers, like bureaucratic barriers that have are just arbitrary, we can start to make those improvements to policy and start shifting, I guess, resources and attention to some of these really key things like catheter coverage, wheelchair coverage, and all these other things that we know are just priorities to focus.
Yeah, and your work is mostly local, but as you said earlier in the podcast, you do end up engaging with peers internationally. Are there jurisdictions that you're aware of, or maybe they're more forward thinking in their implementation of accessibility, or there's jurisdictions that you admire, or where they were at, where they're going?
We have this discussion a lot because I'm also the chair of Spinal Injury Canada's Executive Directors Council. And so basically responsible for the operations of our national office. And it's a really strong network of provincial organizations that basically run Spinal Injury Canada. And even within Canada, there's so much variability in not only accessibility, but policy around reimbursement for essential needs and services. Mm-hmm. So BC is not doing particularly well in that. So when we look outside of our province and outside of our country, there are lots of great examples of things that we can point to that we wish we had that here in BC. But at the same time, we always recognize within those jurisdictions, there are other things that we're doing much better here in BC.
But what are those other ones that are doing better, and what are they doing better, and where are they?
Well, I'm not going to say they're doing better overall necessarily.
Right.
So there's good examples in Australia, for example, where they have good systems for rehab and supports in certain states in Australia. There's certain European countries that have great systems set up.
And what are those, both systems and the places?
Well, in Switzerland, for example, they have a really great rehab system, where they have some great hospitals and networks, and how people are supported is different. In the Netherlands, they have rehab centers all over the place. It's a tiny little country. They have like way more rehab centers than we have here in BC, for example. They're not necessarily just focused on spinal cord injury, but they have different levels of expertise. As I said, like I think, and there's just spots where there's.
Yeah, we don't have to defend why we're bad or someone. We're not bad. We're just trying to understand for our audience.
Exactly. Yeah, but I always say, like, if you're going to have a spinal cord injury, BC is a pretty darn good place to have one, and Canada is a pretty darn good place to have one. Right. And like, if you're in the healthcare system and you're like our surgeons here, for example, best in the world, the rehab folks at GS Strong Rehab Center are like admired by the world. And we have services like the sexual health service that don't really exist in most other places in the world. including in any other province in Canada. So there's lots of reasons like why it's great here. But when it comes to catheter coverage, for example, we kind of suck, right? Like Saskatchewan has a much more equitable system where they're paying for much more coverage. It's not necessarily means tested, so your income doesn't necessarily affect how much you can get in terms of catheter coverage, those types of things. So we undertook or participated in a project led by Dr. Chris Kelly at the University of Manitoba, who is first of all spinal cord injury herself, was former executive director at what is now Spinal Cord Injury Manitoba. She's a professor at University of Manitoba now, and with a lead from Spinal Cord Injury Ontario, did a national comparison of how provinces cover essential needs and services. And it was really important that the definition of essential needs was very clear in that if withheld, the individual will die within a certain short time frame. Like it's very clear. If you don't have access to catheters, you're going to die. Right. If you don't have a mobility device to get around, to get food or water or whatever, you're going to die. And that was really important, I think, to raise that kind of. It's not a rhetorical argument at that point. It's like that's fact. So it's hard to argue against that. And so why are we charging? Like, why aren't we helping folks out with their coverage for things like catheters and whatnot? Anyways, the comparison across the country is a very useful starting point for us to explore how we can target discussion with government policymakers about how we can improve the system here to make it more equitable. And then we draw upon from other jurisdictions as well. And for example, we're looking at the Geostrong Rehab Center, which is a pretty amazing place. It was built 75 years ago. Canada has a wonderful legacy of being a leader in spinal cord injury rehab and community service. So back in 1945, World War II, soldiers were coming back to Canada with spinal cord injuries and finding a world that was not inclusive of them. And they got together and they formed what is now Spinal Cord Injury Canada, founded on members helping members. The peer support. They created the world's first really dedicated spinal cord injury rehab center, which is now the Lyndhurst Rehab Center in Toronto. They helped form the Ministry or the Department of Veterans Affairs, for example, here in Canada. So a pretty strong legacy of creating community service and specialized rehab, which is pretty cool. And where I was going with this, I can't remember, but it's the legacy here. And so as I was talking about GF Strong, as I recall what I started with here, it's an amazing center that had built a culture of care that was really unique in the world, and people felt a very strong sense of community, and that's been really eroded over the recent years because of funding cuts, because of trying to get people through the rehab system so quickly. The infrastructure is aging. And so now it's taking groups working together to build a case and exploring what other new centers are out there in the world that are doing a good job at building an infrastructure around spinal cord injury rehab that we should be looking to as we renew our approach to rehab here in BC. So,
I think that one follow-up I do have, though, and through our community, we actually have a WhatsApp group. We have a lot of engagement in that from the community. There are caregivers and siblings and other people that are involved in the group, but then there's a lot of people living with disabilities, whether spinal and or others. And one of the questions that came up is that they wanted us to ask is there is a lot of work being done on the legislative policy making side, and we now have a Chief Accessibility Officer for Canada, which is a fantastic role. There is all this work that's being done for creating this pie in the sky opportunity for the community. Where is the enforcement of it? You can have speed limits on the streets, but if you're never going to enforce them, that it's almost like they don't exist.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that they are actually implemented? The other day, Amit and I went to a restaurant, and he couldn't get in because it was not wheelchair accessible. And this is in 2025 in Vancouver.
Yeah.
How does that happen still? So there is an enforcement piece that is missing. So I don't know if you had some time to think about that.
Well, I mean, yes, in the sense that we, and I say we, that's Spinal Coordinator Canada, are the provincial network members, and we banded together with another, I think it was like 32 different organizations. It was called the Canadian, I can't remember what it stands for, but we supported the development of the federal accessibility legislation piece. And so it was a really great coalition of like-minded organizations that undertook a series of community consultations to understand what priorities there should be for this act, and the enforcement piece was always brought up as a really key point. So too, when we supported the development of the Accessible BC Act. So every community consultation we had, enforcement was brought up, and so I think we all agreed that there needs to be better enforcement mechanisms. Now, we shouldn't have to rely just on enforcement, because I'm a very strong believer that there should be incentives. And people are much more willing to buy in and exceed minimum standard when there are incentives involved. And I think that's one of the things, there's often a criticism of these accessibility standards and whatnot, is that you create a minimum requirement, and nobody wants to shoot for the minimum. We should be shooting for the maximum all the time, right? So I think incentives can help get people beyond the minimum, but at the same time, it needs to be a minimum, and there needs to be a clearly understood standard that people know they have to apply by, and there needs to be enforcement to ensure that when people are not compliant, that there are consequences. So, yeah, I mean, I can't argue that there shouldn't be. Enforcement it's clearly an important thing.
Enforcement, I'm getting married, Chris.
31 years.
How's the enforcement work? Right. So I have 21 year, one veteran now. So I know how the enforcement run.
Yeah.
So we need to have some kind of a enforcement that way, right?
Yeah.
I remember the enforcement is always there, but I remember there's a case with Richmond in RCMP, what they did a few years back. So instead of like how we always get a ticket of speeding or non-parking and everything, they did something very different. So they used to give tickets for doing a good job, so the youth and everything. I don't know, you must have read about it. And, right? And they were used to be like, if you're doing a littering and you're putting it in the right way, they will give you a ticket which give you a voucher to get something, coffee, or I don't remember exactly how they did it. But that was a good part of it. Like, why we as an organization or other province and everything can do it for the communities or to the people or to the businesses who are doing an excellent job to support us. It's just not me as I'm being on a wheelchair, but there's a lot of people who are doesn't have a vision, and the people who cannot talk or listen, and disability on different side of it. And there are a lot of businesses and the communities who does a great job, and we should, as an organization, we should support them. Hey, if you do this, this is a good ticket for you. Don't you think that will change the idea?
I think it's people's lack of awareness of why it's important. So within our, let's call it the disability community, I don't really believe there's a disability community. It's just part of the community. But people with disabilities and those who engage with them understand these issues, and would see, like, if a business became more accessible, for example, that they would be thankful for that. They would recognize why that was good and maybe promote that business or whatever. But if you don't have any connection to it, you get a certificate or whatever, like, that doesn't mean anything to them because they don't understand what the impact of that is. So I think that's a really hard challenge with this piece. It's just not obvious to folks.
I like the incentive idea, actually, because if you think about building, let's say housing is a challenge for people with disabilities, finding accessible housing. If you gave the builders an incentive, like they do with the environmental movement, you can build buildings that are LEED certified as a silver, platinum, gold. We could have a rating like that for accessibility, And if they hit a certain level of accessibility rating, it allows them to unlock an additional square footage built area, let's say. And so if they can build an extra 10%, but we do know there are additional costs incurred sometimes when you're building in accessibility into built spaces, then, and it only costs you 2%. So if you can build an extra 100 square feet, you're giving away 10 square feet to accessibility features. Now you've got an extra 90 square feet that you can now either rent and collect or sell and collect money on. Those are things that can be done, and they don't have to be, I think we just have to correlate them with the cities. The city isn't going to lose anything by giving somebody an additional amount of square footage that they can build. In fact, they'll probably collect more taxes on it now with the new laws of increasing densification. There's a challenge now going to be on building accessibility in these 6 homes on a single lot. So I think the incentive idea is really good. I also do think about, there's one side of accommodating people with disabilities, but then there's the other side of increasing their ability to earn. There's a lot of underemployment and or unemployment in people with disabilities. So if they had access to more resources, what do you think are the opportunities in allowing them to boost their incomes, whether it's with jobs or other entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So just on the incentives, completely agree. Like, I think there's easements, there's tax incentives, there's all sorts of other drivers that can really, I think, ultimately have to change. And I just also want to throw in, while I remember, we're really at a unique point in our history where we have the opportunity to address the absolute shortage of accessible units in this country. The amount of money that's getting thrown at housing creates the most unique opportunity to create accessible housing. Accessible housing, adaptable housing, visible housing, all those things should be on the table and shouldn't actually require incentives at this point, because there's already, it's a procurement issue at this point with all the government funding and subsidies and things that are coming in. So I think that's an added layer to that, if we don't capitalize on this now, it's going to be a massive miss. In terms of, the employment piece is a very tricky one, very, very tricky one, because there are lots of things that we can do and should be done to make for more inclusive workplaces. But I think there also has to be acknowledgement that not everybody with a disability is going to be capable of working in a way that's meaningful to them. I shouldn't say it. They should be able to find meaningful opportunities to be involved in something, but it's a challenging one, because there have been many, many employment programs rolled out over the last 4 years, and we really haven't changed the dial on employment rates for people with disabilities. Why is that? Well, I think, and this is what I say to government all the time, is that they're always just looking at the end point of the employment process. So you try and train people up and get them placed in jobs. But what you're not doing is looking at all the factors that are inhibiting their ability to even contemplate employment. So do you have the home supports? Do you even have a home, an accessible home?
Yeah.
Right? Do you have access to public or any accessible transportation? Do you have enough time and energy after all the things you need to do because of your disability itself to actually have the energy to get to work? And then what about all the disincentives to working? So government programs are great, but if you're on government support, income support, and you earn a little bit too much, then you're going to get cut. You're going to lose all sorts of benefits. Well, it's crazy, right? Like, you're not going to get the same access to your drugs, medication, and things that you need, right? And it kind of just goes on and on. So there are all of these disincentives to employment that should be looked at immediately, and I think there's great opportunity there to allow people to not only just make more, but to make more in ways that are really meaningful to them.
Well, definitely. I feel the government always not motivating. It's demotivating.
Yeah.
If I earn more money, you demotivate me not to have this, not to have that. You think in my community, I met peers who have been married and they are spinal cord. So now they want to be separated because if they get separated, they are more benefitable to them rather than being together.
Yeah.
So that is like a demotivating.
Yeah.
I met peers who are amazing to work and everything, and they don't want to work because if they work more, their benefits gonna get dinged out, their home support is gonna get dinged out. So there's no point, they can only, even it's like I'm an entrepreneur, and for me to come down here in the morning, 9 o'clock, my brother took only 15 minutes because he just moved to Vancouver. But for me, it takes 45 minutes. But luckily, I am supportive. I have a business and a family support. I have a vehicle for me to drive down here, much more easier. But just imagine somebody has to live in Surrey because of a housing shortage in Vancouver. He has to come down here. Yet that's completely demotivating to start a job, coming in 9 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to do it. So I always feel, yes, the BC is demotivating more. Hey, they take this money and just relax.
Yeah.
Rather than, and as I said, the catheter issues, all those things get resolved. If you motivate them, hey, you know what, you will not lose this, you will earn more of it. But they don't do it.
It's so true. Yeah. The distance, and we know from research that people with disabilities, people with spinal cord, they want to work. It's an important part of their identity. They actually feel it is very important to their identity. So, but they can't work because of these disincentives. So we really need to.
Yeah. One thing I will say though, as someone who's observed someone with a disability, someone who wasn't disabled, became disabled, and then overcome their mental struggles, if there is someone with who I can look up to in so many ways, and a lot of people don't realize how much people with disabilities have to give back to us. And we have a lot of young people in the audience. They are watching and listening, whether or not with or without disabilities. What experiences have you had in interacting with people with disabilities, and how, maybe whether it's positive or negatives, that you can share with us that you've seen them either improve their lives? We recently had a guest who was grateful for his injury. He also had a spinal cord injury. If you talk to my brother, he's glad that he had this injury. It's unfathomable for people like us who not have experienced the end of it, but we're just like, oh my God, like how bad is this? Whereas they're coming out from a place of gratitude. So maybe because you're in that spot where you see a lot of people like Amit, maybe share some experiences that you've had in interactions that you had with them.
Yeah. I always like to be clear. I don't have a physical disability. That's not. I'm temporarily able-bodied, I guess is the word.
Right. I'm glad he said that, because if you live long enough,
yeah,
at some point you will be disabled.
Exactly.
Whether temporary or permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of my best friends, like one of my best friends, spinal cord injury. We've known each other. We did our PhDs together, that kind of thing. When I blew out my Achilles, he was like, he just kind of laughed at me, right? Like it was a pain. It was hard. I had to navigate public transit with like temporary disability, but that was good perspective for me, right? Like, so I think I hear that a lot. Like I think everybody's journey is different, and so there will be a lot of people who mourn the loss of what they had after their injury. And some people never really get over that. But there are those, and this is partly what my organization's around, like to see the potential, to see the opportunity. And so many stories that I've heard, like yours, Anna, like where you realize that your injury has given you something that you wouldn't have had otherwise, opportunities that you wouldn't have had necessarily otherwise. And so it doesn't have to be a story of loss. It could be a story of a new opportunity, a new direction. And this, there's so many people who've done incredible things, and it's not because of their spinal cord injury, but it's with their spinal cord injury. But it's not to diminish the challenge that so many face and the struggle to get over that. And we hear the success stories, and those are important. but we don't hear a lot of the struggles that a lot of people face all the time. And so it's just always, it's important for me to always have that balance and perspective, to not sensationalize, or over sensationalize, achievement sometimes. And I know a lot of folks that I've known over the years, like they don't want to be seen as like something special because they're just doing their job. It's cool because they have a spinal cord injury, but it's like they're just doing their job. And so it's, a lot of people see it as super inspirational that they're not seeing it that way, right? Like it's just them. So that, I think having that grounded perspective is really important. And one of the things I'm very fortunate to have an amazing team at Spinal Cord Injury BC who, throughout this province, interacts with so many people with spinal cord injuries, the families of the disabilities. And I just had the really good fortune of hearing a lot of the stories, and all sorts of stories. And so, for me, it's just, I mean, it's the human condition, right? Like, all those stories are important and meaningful, and they shape the way that not only I think, but our organization, thinks and goes about its business.
For so many years you've been with the SCI BC, what are the amazing program you have developed, or you think that is one of the something has done an amazing job in our community?
So I'm 100% biased, of course. When I took over the role in 2010, I was asked to rebuild the organization. Essentially, I had gone through a major restructure, and the board direction was to develop our peer support program and our information services program. And I was really excited because those are the two things that I thought were really, I guess, at the core of the organization that had been forgotten for so long. And so to return to those was a very exciting opportunity for me. I always been kind of in startup mode, like building research networks, building research centers, like from the beginning. I was excited to come to an organization that had already been around for 60 years, and soon realized that we were still in startup mode, which was actually kind of great and exciting because we got to build it in the way that we wanted to build it. So I'm really proud of I think our peer support program obviously is so impactful. We do so much with so little, and we know that just the little things just make such a big difference for people. So, but I also know that the success of our peer support program is also built on the incredible work of our information services program and all of the information resources that we have available to people, that we can get people that will go find answers for folks. And I think for our peer support providers, they don't know the answers to everything. So when I get asked a question, they have this internal resource to go to actually find the answer. We hear so often from people that we're the only organization, A, that ever called them back, and B, was ever able to answer that question. And to me, I'm obviously proud of that, but I think I'm also kind of shocked by that because there are some big programs out there that have similar types of information programs that they're not getting back to people. That's troubling, and if they're not able to answer the question, it's even more troubling. So I'm particularly proud of those two things. And then the work that we've slowly done on the accessibility side. It's not one of our marquee programs, but it's a really important program that we do with just very, very limited resources, but have been having a huge impact. So yeah, just that philosophy for us that we do a lot with a little. That's kind of me anyways. I think we maximize what we have, and I'm just really proud of the work that the team does.
I know, Nico, because one of the greatest programs I attended, the Vista program.
Yeah.
And I think that you're being still knocking the door to give us the accessibility route to go there.
Yeah.
How far are we now?
So when was this? Many years ago, we wrote to then MLA Jordan Discurdy, who was the MLA for the region, Sea Sky, the mayor of Whistler, Mayor Squamish, with a letter, basically outlining what you're saying. There's no accessible transportation to through the Whistler corridor, Sea Sky corridor, And so the letter was well received. We got some nice remarks back. Understood the importance of this piece. And then how many years later is it now? 10? I don't know. We're writing another letter. Well, actually, we're just reusing the same letter, basically, and updating the numbers. Because one of our care members was asking how they could get up to Whistler, and the only available option that was accessible was a $750 limousine ride. That's obviously not feasible. So.
And consider this way, because we just hosted a few years back the Paralympics over there, right?
Yeah.
And I found it as this is the stupidest thing to hear about it. If you don't have any route to reach there to enjoy the city, there is no buses, nothing like that.
Yeah, just to underscore that, it's not just the Sea to Sky corridor; it's all of this province. Like if you want to go from town to town in the interior of BC, if you want to get from somewhere in northern BC to the Kootenays, there's no more buses anymore, and then there are no options. Basically, yeah, it's a real problem.
And we're one of the best rated places. If you were ever to have a spinal cord injury, you say to yourself, BC would be the place. And we're talking about that province itself here.
Yeah.
So again, let's put the opportunity hat on. Is there business opportunities here for people to tap into? Like, what are the statistics? What is the potential that someone were to get into a business of this kind and or others? You brought up tourism. There are, again, young people in the audience that we can inspire to potentially think about opportunities here.
It's really hard. I mean, maybe I should also say that there's very little bus service for anybody in this province. So it's not just folks with accessibility challenges. There have been a few companies that have started up that have provided some accessible transportation services. They don't tend to last. I know last year, BC Wheelchair Sports was hosting their Canada Cup International Rugby Tournament. And for years, they'd relied on this company that had an accessible bus that could actually transport large numbers of wheelchair athletes to and from the venues and the airport and whatnot. And they called the team organizing the event, called them up, and the company said, "Oh no, that bus broke down, and we've junked it. We can't afford to buy it in England or whatever. I don't know." But so they were stuck. They had no option. The hotels that they would normally book for that event in Richmond, well, some of them were on strike, so that was a problem. The ones with the most accessible units, and to house, I think there were supposed to be 8 teams coming from around the world to compete. Well, there wasn't enough. The logistics didn't allow for enough transportation or enough accommodation, so they had to reduce the number of teams available to come here. So, and this is a very accessible city by all standards, but we don't have enough accessible accommodation, even in the hotel space, and the accessible transportation remains a huge challenge. So, I don't know, like, what kind of opportunities exist out there other than whatever transportation is out there maybe needs to have some regulation around it in terms of providing accessible options for folks. But even that, if we want to, like the Whistler event is a good one, right? Because we can get 1 or 2 people to an event, and 1 or 2 people can hop on any bus here and get to where they want. But if you've got 10 people trying to get on that bus with a wheelchair at the same time, well, that's going to take 5 different buses to get them there.
Yeah, even with the local traffic. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way you can fit in 3 wheelchairs in there.
Exactly.
2, probably the max.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we have to play rock, paper, scissors. Who's going to go one day?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
No, literally, like, it's the way I've seen it. I'm glad I have a vehicle, but like literally my peers have to go play rock and paper, scissors. Okay, buddy, I'm going to take this one. You got to go next one, or you take this one.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it's a cold day like today, that's no fun. Yeah.
I know, like, I'm glad I'm not in the rest of the Canada. Yeah. Otherwise, I may not be, I will be in the hibernation mode all the time.
Exactly.
There is no way I'm going out.
Yeah.
There's no, like, well, it's too much to deal with the cold. I don't know. Chris, if you get a chance to become an animal,
Mm-hmm.
which animal you want to choose and why?
It changes from time to time for me.
You're chasing it? You're chasing according to the what I get today, the tiger mode?
No. Well, no. I mean, everybody.
No, we're not talking about the bedroom side. Okay,
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I love, like, to be an orca would be pretty cool.
Orca.
Yeah.
That's a unique one.
Yeah.
Why do you want to be orca?
Well, an orca is like, I mean, they're very smart. They're an apex predator. Not that I'm an apex predator, but, I mean, to live in the ocean, to be free in the ocean, to roam the world, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, a bird is an easy answer, but, yeah, I just love whales. So, West Coast guy.
So not the killer whale, just the orca?
Well, killer whale is an orca.
Orca is it?
Yeah, it's an orca.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, the big blue whale.
No.
Oh,
He
no.
said it's an orca. Yeah, the black and white one.
Yeah.
Looks like a cow in the ocean.
Exactly. Yeah.
But not the big blue whale, the big one?
Sounds kind of boring. Just slowly cruise the world, but yeah.
No, they have amazing, definitely, the whales have, I was watching a documentary, they have amazing perspective of how they talk and how they relate to each other. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And especially to our Inuit community, and it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So for something like that. If I have to choose an animal, I always choose a monkey.
You're the monkey.
Always.
See, I had a bad experience as a monkey as a kid. So
Yeah, what happened?
I was with my parents. We were 1979, I guess, backpacking through Southeast Asia for a few months, and we were in Bali at the time, and we were walking through the forest and got stood up by a troop of monkeys that threatened us, and I was just a little kid, so very freaked out about monkeys ever since.
Do you know which monkeys I can give them a word of?
Could you? Yeah, no.
We believe in reincarnations. It was in the 70s. It could have been him. It was him.
Well, now I can retrospectively you would imagine this very differently. Yeah.
I was born in the 80s, so it could be the transition was that.
Yeah, okay.
Remember? We changed according to the child as we become from monkeys, so that was my transition.
Yeah. Okay, but why do you choose monkey?
I think so. They're intelligent and
Yeah.
they're pretty close to our 95% of our gene too, right?
Well-
Scientifically, our chimpanzee, 0.1 or 2% we are away from it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much. And according to the Charles Darwin, we moved from there. So I thought a monkey, they'll always been the smart one. Monkey, they'll always been the mischievous. And a monkey can jump around here and there.
Monkeys are pretty cool that way.
I see where the mobility.
Yeah. My Chinese zodiac sign is a wood monkey.
Oh, that's me too.
Are you okay? All right. Yeah.
See, we are pretty close. But yeah, orc and monkey cannot get along.
There is a spiritual guy. As I'm observing him here. There's two monkeys in this. Yeah. I mean, one of the other things for me is someone with your spinal cord injury association BC hat on. There's the association and there's the foundation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What is the difference between the two?
So our foundation was established, I can't remember how many, 35 years ago, whatever it was, basically to hold excess funds. So we got some donations to support the work of Spinal Cord Injury BC. I mean, the names were all different back then. Of course, it was BC Paraplegic Association. But so our foundation now exists essentially to hold funds that support spinal cord injury. So we're very fortunate to have that level of support from our foundation. And I mean, all they do basically is two things. They have they hold the funds, and they oversee the investments that we have, and they are the owners of the building that our knee office is run out of.
So the foundation financially supports the association.
Yeah.
That's the relationship.
Yeah, and they don't do fundraising. They don't do other things like that, which a lot of other foundations obviously do. So they're, yeah.
But definitely our younger entrepreneurs and younger audience and everything, they're always looking forward some kind of a motivation to it. Because the life changes when you go to the other side of the bridge, when you get disabled, and how things are looking different to you everywhere.
Yeah.
In your experience and your knowledge, what kind of book or motivational speaker would you recommend to anybody?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest, because everybody's so different. But I'll tell you my favorite motivational speaker, the one who I really enjoyed the most and appreciated the most, is Josh Dueck. So Josh is a gold-winning Paralympian sit skier. He is with running Freestyle Canada now, so he's really done well with his life post injury. And for a while, he worked with Spinal from Injury BC as on the peer mentor side. So and Josh is just a really inspirational guy for me personally, because he just tells real stories. He doesn't. He doesn't. He's very relatable, I suppose. So maybe that's why. Because he's succeeded, but he's struggled at the same time, and he's just very open and honest about that. And to me, that is really, for anybody who's looking for inspiration, you want the honest part, because if it's just the celebratory pieces, without the challenge, it's not a very accurate reflection of the reality that person faces.
Yeah. So if you were to give your 18-year-old self who's going into this space some advice, what advice would you give?
In terms of my role, just life in general.
Talk to the 18-year-old Chris brought me right.
Go back.
I think the lesson that I learned and I would tell myself is just to be open to opportunity, because you don't know what your path is going to look like. Nobody really does. I mean, there are some people who just are hyper focused on doing something in their life, and all they do is work to achieve that. That wasn't me. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, kind of thing. And opportunities just come to me through effort. Like, it's not like I wasn't doing stuff but to always, so yeah, to create those opportunities and just be open to whatever arises, I think for me is what I would tell myself, because I say this, I never really applied for any of my jobs or anything. Like, I just kind of stumbled into them, right time, right place, but also worked hard to put myself into the position where the opportunity arose and I was able to take it. But and I think that kind of goes for, I can't say this because I don't have a spinal cord injury, but I think I know a lot of people with spinal cord injuries who have that openness to exploration and to opportunity, and to figure out how they can take it, and to put themselves in a position where they're able to take advantage of the opportunity when it arises. And I think that's just probably good for any investor to me.
I mean, even though it was an atypical career path, it's been an amazing career path. You've made an positive impact in the lives of so many people. It was evident when we put your name up as one of the guests coming up, and there was a lot of excitement in the group, in the community, wanting to ask questions of you. They're looking forward to listening to and watching the episode. So you're admired by a lot of people, and coming from me, who is not involved in the association directly, but through my brother, I also admire the work that you've done and continue to do for the organization and for the people. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's very meaningful to me to hear that from you, but also from your listeners and viewers, and because I don't really think about that on a day-to-day basis. Like, I just do my job, but and I just love the people I'm working with. I'm very passionate about the sort of the mission of the organization, and just the opportunity to do little things that make big differences. Just very thankful to be part of it.
No, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Like, the programs you have developed, especially the peer program you have, it is one of the greatest program I found. It's great to connect people, and it's the people who can understand you. Why I have to be running late? Why do I feel more cold? Why? It's the greatest program you have done. It's because of your leadership in the organization. I had friends who were not friends to me before, and now I have so many of them. I talk to them every day about it. And they are my peers also, they are my friends also. They are the people who can understand me very well too. Beside my family who can, otherwise it won't be us. So I'm very grateful for you to run the coalition, and I feel you can be a little more aggressive in our advocacy. So we can start kicking butts for these guys to make changes, not to be just keep slacking all the time, because otherwise we will have this new person. Because what, Chris, how many years? What, 10 more years for you?
I'll stay silent on that one.
So no, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you for having me here today. And I just want to say that I appreciate your words very much, particularly about the peer program. But I do want to say that the magic of our peer program is really the people that participate in it. That's the secret sauce. And so thank you for your participation and your willingness to be somebody who's obviously going to has had and will have impact on others. So appreciate that from you too.
I'm grateful. Thank you.